Welcome to the Professor's Parlor, a think tank media podcast. Hosted by Dr. Berkita S. Bradford and Dr. Sherrie Tennessee, this is a space for real conversations about professional growth, career pathways, and what's next for hospitality and tourism. From entrepreneurship to industry leadership and the lived experiences of students on HBCU campuses, each episode blends academic insight with real-world perspective. Pull up a chair. Let's get into it.
Good evening and welcome to the Professor's Parlor. I am Berkita Bradford and I am the Department Chair and Associate Professor of Hospitality at North Carolina Central University. So I am coming to you from the beautiful state of North Carolina. And my co-host or my co-professor is Dr. Sherrie Tennessee. And it looks like she's frozen. Okay. So today we have with us, okay, I'm not sure what's going on with Sharice. Okay, all right, you were frozen for a second, but please, I have already said you're my co-host.
Hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead, that's okay. It's technology, it happens.
It is. You gotta love it.
I had to get an extender.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherrie Tennessee. I'm at Virginia State University. I am in the lovely Las Vegas, Nevada. I am the online coordinator, satellite liaison, and assistant professor at Virginia State in the hospitality program. And I coordinate the online program and excited to be here with you.
Thank you for being my co-host tonight. And so in a quick second, and there he is. Let's clap for our guest tonight. So tonight we have Mr. Calvin Stovall, and he is an author, he is a dad, and he is a hospitality professional. And so what we do here in the Professor's Parlor is we allow our guests to introduce themselves because our guest is so fabulous and they wear many hats, multiple hats. We don't want to slight anybody. So we allow them to introduce themselves. And then for me, I don't want to mispronounce anyone's name. And so I don't want to do that. So Calvin, it is a very organic show. Okay. And I do have on, so we're coming up.
Oh, y'all you represent.
Yes, on homecoming. So I'm representing tonight. So we're in homecoming mode here at NCCU and it's homecoming at Virginia State. So we're in homecoming mode. So with that said, I'm going to first let me formally introduce you to Dr. Sherrie Tennessee. So she is the other professor in the parlor, and she is way out in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Sherrie is a friend and colleague, and currently she is wearing multiple hats at Virginia State, the online coordinator, the liaison, the outreach specialist and liaison, and an assistant professor. And she's a mom, like you, a dad. She's a mom of a human and a dog.
Oh, okay.
So yes. So that's she is the co-host. So we'll get started. We'll let you introduce yourself, Calvin, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you both. Sherrie and Berkita. Sherrie is cracking up. For having me today. I'm really, really excited to be here. Just a quick introduction. I am originally from Chicago. I actually live in North Carolina now, in Mooresville. Most people never know Mooresville, but it's about 30 minutes north of Charlotte. But I am a native Chicagoan, but I've also lived in Minneapolis and Memphis for a while when I was working for Hilton. But as far as my career is concerned, I am a hotel lead through and through. Been in the hotel industry a long time. Started as a front desk clerk at a Holiday Inn in downtown Chicago, worked in some other hotels, and went to grad school at the Cornell Hotel School in Ithaca, and then left there and ended up working for Hilton for a while. Did some property level. I was an AGM at an Embassy Suites in Memphis. Then worked in corporate for a while in research, then brand management. Eventually became vice president of brand marketing for Homewood Suites by Hilton when they were very small. And they had probably might have had 35, 40 hotels when I started.
Oh,
So it was a long time ago. By the time I left, it might have been about, they had another maybe 150 or so coming in the pipeline. I don't know how many they have now, but I'm sure it's quite a few.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but I worked with them when they kind of just started the brand. And then after that, I did get into some nonprofit space. I did work for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital a couple of years in their brand strategy department for the fundraising arm, ALSAC. And then probably one of the most fun jobs I've had is I was also the CEO of an organization in Memphis called the Soulsville Foundation, which was built out of the famous Stax Records recording studio. Yeah, it's Stax closed a long time ago, of course, but if you don't know Stax, I'm sure you've heard songs from Stax, staple singers, Isaac Hayes. I think the Dramatics was on that label, Booker T and the MG, Sam and Dave, all those guys. Otis Redding, I'm sure you know though.
Oh, yeah, I know. Doesn't Isaac Hayes, isn't there? Didn't he have a restaurant in Memphis?
He sure did.
Yes.
He did. I was living there when that restaurant was there.
Okay, I've been to that restaurant. I've been years ago. Yeah. I went to that restaurant. Okay.
Yeah. So
you have
and we have to do it well because Tim is at University of Memphis. So he's in Memphis right now, Tim Floor, who's hosting the whole platform.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So yes. And my first hotel job out of undergrad was downtown Chicago. It stayed in Wacker across from Marina Towers. And it was a Stouffer at the time.
I remember that hotel.
Yes, it was a Stouffer, and it's a Renaissance now.
Yeah.
And so I tell people Chicago is probably my favorite U.S. city. And I grew up as a kid going to Chicago all the time. My dad had a sister that lived there, and I was from a very small town in North Louisiana. And so I was always fascinated by the city. And so had no idea at some point I would end up living in Chicago, but I did. But yes, so we're all just kind of like that. I think 60 years of separation has become about 3 with technology and things. And see, that is exactly why I like for guests to introduce themselves, because I learned something. I didn't realize you work for a record company, and Memphis is very rich, with blues and things like that, which is hospitality. Because I remember years ago when I first started teaching event planning, and they said, everything is an event. And the example that they gave was, they said somebody planned the Lord's Supper.
Somebody had to do it, right?
Yeah. It's like, yes. And so, so we do want to focus tonight. Again, thank you so much for having us. And so tonight we do want to talk about this fabulous coffee table book that you have. And so I do now think I see how you were led to feature hotels. That was one of my questions, but you just said that you are a hotelier through and through. And so if you would just share, how the journey, like from, the aha epiphany, I want to do this, and, all of the, the different challenges, and just share that journey of how you came to where you are, and with tomorrow, it being available to everyone. So if you would do that, that would be great.
I would love to. Yeah. Tomorrow is the official day.
Tomorrow is the day.
Tomorrow's the day. People have been texting me all day saying that they're getting notifications from Amazon saying that their book is coming.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So it's been it has been a journey. I'll take you back. I'll try to make this story short because it could get long, but it actually started in graduate school at Cornell, and and I know you know Evan Frazier. Evan was at there. He was an undergrad at Cornell when I was there as a grad student, and they started in SMH at the time, and they were doing their second or third conference. I don't know which one. And he actually asked me, he was like, Calvin, can you do some research on Black hotel ownership from a historic perspective? And I was like, He was like, try to go back as far as you can and see, what was going on with African Americans with hotels. And of course I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. So I did it, and I got really intrigued by it, Berkita and Sherrie, and I kept delving into the research, going further and further, and it actually became my monograph, which is required for all graduate students to complete. It's not nearly as exhaustive as a thesis or a dissertation, but it's a document. You got to find a subject that you're interested in and create it, and then present it to the graduate folks, and they let you go. So they gave me it was probably about 100 pages. They give you a nice black bound folder to put it in with gold lettering on it. And so, of course, I kept it. Now, we're talking 1993 or so when that happened. Now, fast forward all the way to like 2021.
Okay.
I'm cleaning out some boxes.
COVID, kind of like coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was cleaning up some boxes. I found it. I was like, wow. And it was a friend of mine was here, and she was like, what's that? I was like, it's my monograph from graduate school. She's like, what is it about? I said, well, it's about Black hotel ownership. It goes from back down at the late 1700s all the way through the civil. She was like, what? She's like, we owned hotels back then? And I was like, absolutely, we did. And so she grabs it and she starts reading, and I can see her eyes were like,
it's coming alive. So she wasn't familiar with the Green Book then, I guess.
Yeah.
If she didn't realize, okay.
Yeah, and she said, is this a book? I was like, well, it's probably going to be now. And that was it. That was it. So, I mean, I reached out to a few folks to get their, I called Evan, and I called others and said, man, what would you think if I put a book like this together? They were like, oh my God, if you can make it happen. So I found the publisher, and I sent them the monograph, and because I wanted to find somebody that was great in coffee table books, because I didn't want it to just be words.
Yes.
I wanted to walk through this journey, see the pictures of these beautiful people and places, and get a better sense of what was going on. I wanted to really have people feel it. And so I just wanted to do it a different way. And I found Brown Books Publishing. They specialize in doing coffee table books, and they're a hybrid publisher. I really wanted to make sure that I had the way I wanted it to look. I wanted to make sure they understood it. And when you go to a traditional publisher, you may not have as much say so.
Absolutely.
And so, but the Brown Books is very different. So I was in every meeting, getting all the pictures, captions. I mean, it was a difficult process, but we got there. But what was funny was at the beginning when I sent them the original monograph, she was like, her name was Millie Brown. She runs the organization there, and she was like, Calvin, this is great. It's a great start.
Just crushed you.
That's a great start. You need to get to about 18, 20,000 words. I didn't even have close to that. But here's the deal. She's like, can you get to that? Can you make that happen? Because we want to do this book. And so they had done research, and there was no other book out there like it.
Wow.
So she goes, I said, yes, I bet I can find some more stuff. I wasn't 100% sure, but I did. I dug and dug. By the time I was done, I was close to 85,000 words.
Wow.
Insane. So wow. I sent them all that stuff. And then the hard part, of course, when you go through that process, is having to get it edited down to a reasonable place, which is very, very challenging. But we got there, and here we are today.
This is so amazing, because it just makes me think, when you think of the historical component, the pictures, I mean, the book is absolutely fabulous. Thank you for giving me a sneak peek. And as I said before we, came live, I did hold on to it, but I am so looking forward to not only purchasing my own copy, but sharing it as a gift. Because when you think about the history of, I say Black people, I don't say African American, because especially in the hospitality space, we have a lot of, Caribbean and other folks who, so I say Black folks. But when you think about the South and you look at, like the Green Book, and not only just in terms of, there was a time when Black people could not stay in hotels, and people created out of need, even renting rooms.
Mhm.
You know, I
Yes.
remember a lady across the street from my aunt and uncle, and teachers who came to the area rented rooms from her. And I remember saying to my mom as a kid, I thought that was so weird. And I said to my mom, I was like, why does she let, people stay in her house that she doesn't know,
Anywhere else?
and my mom was like, well, because there was a time when if a teacher came to the area, like my mother's teachers in that generation and my dad's
Mhm.
teachers,
Mhm.
they couldn't stay in hotels or necessarily go get an apartment. So they rented. So I say that to a degree, that was like the original Airbnb. It was,
Absolutely.
and it's
It-
amazing how people knew, and there was
Mhm.
no internet, there was no email, there was none of that. And it just speaks to the resilience and the ability to pivot, out of need. And so when I saw your book, to me, it was way beyond just something beautiful, obviously, to put on your table, but it represents so much more because I grew up, we would always drive to Chicago and Muskegon, Michigan, because my dad had a sister in Muskegon too. I didn't like Muskegon, for the record, I digress, but always loved Chicago.
Right.
And, we could stop and do whatever. And, my dad would often reflect how that wasn't the case, like when he was going with his dad, or when you hear about at a certain point, you had to sit in the train at a certain space. And once you passed
Mhm.
that Mason-Dixon line. So I think for you to reach back and make it something positive, because that is still a part of history, but it also speaks to the opportunities in the hospitality industry and in the space, in your case, in the hotel industry. And interestingly enough, our guests in another Parlor episode, if you will, are hotel owners. And I think that Kyrie and Julian, and I think they're
They're
in your
they're
book.
they're in the book.
Yeah,
They're in
they're
the
in
book.
the book. Absolutely. So when you
Beautiful
look
picture, by the way.
I'm sure because they
Oh,
both are camera ready.
amazing.
Yes, they both
Yeah.
are camera ready folks. And so I just think it's so great. So your friend essentially planted a seed, and being an educator, I'm always looking for an opportunity to promote, education. And so what I also hear from you is, we look back and you're like, I had to write this book, to get my master's, and it was annoying. And I had to go to the library until a certain age listening to us. They're like, why did you go to the library? Because that's what you did in the 90s.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to go to the library. Look at what this, you had to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and for us, it was a meetup. I don't know about your school, but in our school, it was a meetup. Like me in front of the library. But to go and turn something that was an assignment in a classroom at Cornell, who knew that it would come to this? And you mentioned Evan. I do know Evan. I've known Evan for a while now, and of course, I'm one of Evan's board members with Mosaic, and
Yes. No.
so I'll probably get you to talk a little bit about your presentation at Mosaic. But I would say I do have what would I would ask you, what did you find to be the most surprising in this journey, like pleasantly surprised in this journey? Because we always know about the not so pleasant stuff, but what would you say was the most pleasant surprise for you
Mhm.
in this journey?
Yeah. When I went back and started looking, the thing that I found out, Berkita, was that there was a lot of information out there, but it's so spread out.
Mhm,
And I mean, there's no way. I mean, and if you
mhm.
don't know the names, you would just
Yes.
couldn't find them. And so
Mhm,
the biggest surprise to me, one of the biggest surprises, was there was enough information out there to create the book,
mhm, mhm,
but and in some instances, depending on the hotelier that I was talking about, some of them had quite a few articles, and then
mhm,
challenge was like the dates might not match and stuff like that.
mhm,
So you have to dig deeper and all of that. But the great thing is that there was information. There was enough to
it's out
create a
there.
solid
Mhm,
book, which was great. But one of the other biggest surprises I found was that the number of Black women,
mhm,
it was incredible how many I can really make this take. If I took this book and said I'm going to just make it about all Black women, I could create a supplement, just another piece.
Wow.
Because in so many instances, like you had Sarah Spencer Washington, you had Rebecca Brownridge Howard in there, you had Annie Box in there, you have I mean, it's just so many in there that owned hotels. Now there may be, in even some instances, her and her husband, they might have opened it, where he might have opened it, but of course, she was there working just as hard as he was. And then they were so entrenched in the business when their husband died, they would keep it and keep it running.
Absolutely. You know, that there's a similar motto, if you will, in restaurant industry with Black families, and believe it or not, the funeral home industry.
Yes.
And when I was writing my dissertation, which, we're going back to writing these requirements, my dissertation was, what factor, what convinces someone or motivates someone to pursue a career in hospitality. And like you, there was like a tagline or a subtitle: is it service or is it servitude? And what I learned, and what I learned in that process was, in that era, people opened businesses that often serve people themselves. And so, in other words, if you were Black, you opened a soul food restaurant, or you opened a hair salon, and your client was your community. And there were a number of reasons for that. So I think that it probably makes sense that you would have Black women to pivot into the hotel industry when you think about the history of Black women having to be in a domestic capacity. You were taking care of people, you were running households.
Yes.
And essentially, so you transfer, these are transferable skills.
Absolutely.
And so now I'm going to have, I need to feed my family, and I want to have, a business. And as I say to my students, sometimes you have to hire yourself.
Yep.
And so I'm going to hire myself. And what do I know? I know food. I know, housing. And I think sometimes it saddens me sometimes, because I think it is a lost opportunity in art in the space of our communities, because for whatever reason, it's not seen as sometimes as something to do with a sense of pride. Even, when you go visit the relatives, they took pride in, taking care of you, especially in the South. And not to say, and Chicago is just Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi migration.
Right.
But when you really look at, how all of this is connected, it is just so to be able to capture this and to do it with pictures, because people will look through a book. I just finished 2 audiobooks, and I was like, doggone it, I don't get to see the pictures. And,
Right.
Because and they were both biographies, and I'm a sports person, and one of them was Dawn Staley, and she was talking about, when she was playing ball and now that she's coaching. And I was like, I was envisioning in my mind, and when you read a biography, you go to the center of the book to look at the pictures. So to do this through pictures is just it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
And so are you going to do a book tour? I know I've invited you to NCCU. We got to get you on campus to sign some of those books. Are you going to do a book tour?
Absolutely. I am. Well, actually, I'm starting my book launch is, of course, tomorrow, but I'm going to be on Wednesday. I'm going to be at the historic Magnolia House in Greensboro.
Okay.
We just celebrated their 75th anniversary as a Green Book site. So,
oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, they are
awesome.
Yeah, I think they actually have one of the designations of historic hotels in America.
Okay.
So yeah, the Natalie Miller, who's the owner there, it's a bed and breakfast now. But they have themed rooms. It's a beautiful place. I've been there. It's wonderful. It's,
Good, good.
yep,
What
yes,
about the Levine Museum? The Levine Museum of the
yeah,
New
that's
South.
here. I might do something here, but I
Okay,
already have a date in February for I think it's called the Carolina Museum of History or something like that.
okay, okay,
But I
okay.
already have like 15 designated places.
Okay, so you on tour.
I'm
Okay,
going, yeah, but it mostly like I'm going to the Dewdrop Inn in New Orleans. I'm
okay,
going to go to the
okay,
H.E. Gaston Motel in Birmingham. So
okay,
I'm going to try to at least visit some of the sites that are still up that's in the book. But I'm also
okay.
hopefully to do a HBCU tour at some
Well,
point.
okay. I'm more than happy to help you
Yeah,
with that, with
yeah.
the folks that I know. And when you go to New Orleans, if you want to venture over to Baton Rouge, let me know. I can definitely get you connected to a spot there to do a book, and I can connect you with some
I know,
folks.
I know, Berkita. I know you know some folks.
So we'll talk offline. We'll talk
Yeah, that's nice.
offline. So
That's awesome. But I
yeah.
but I loved your angle about the culinary piece, because a lot of these hotels that are in here, the hotel, they started restaurants and then
Absolutely.
they
Absolutely.
expanded. And I mean, even the guy, there's a guy in the book, his name is Edwin Cornelius Berry.
Okay.
He was a culinary, I don't know what you would call it, a guy. I mean, he was great at it.
Mhm.
And he pretty much built his hotel around his culinary expertise.
Isn't
And
that wonderful?
and the thing, it was in Athens, Ohio. But here's the deal: he was so good. His Most of his guests were white.
That's very common.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yes,
he
that's
got and
very
he,
common.
but he
Mhm,
was credited with doing a lot of things first, putting Bibles in
mhm,
the room, having coat hangers in the closet, doing sewing kits in the rooms. I mean,
mhm.
that's why I think this book is so important for people to really, really get an understanding of how much of that level of role we played in the hospitality industry.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's the thing, it's like I remember, people would pay my grandmother for baking cakes, and
uh-huh.
and I would go to her house, and it was just something. I don't know if you guys know what a tea cake is, but
Yeah.
I loved my grandmother's tea cakes, and like I would go to her house. She's 94. She doesn't cook anymore, but she's 94. And
Wow. What a
you
blessing.
yes, yes. And you would go to her house, and there was always, and people would like pay her for that. That was
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
She never opened a bakery. I had an aunt that had a restaurant for a while, and she did cook in the restaurant for a while. And I would be working, my sister, my first cousins, and part of what we loved was that our grandmother was in the kitchen, and we knew we were going to get some good food.
There
And
you
it
go.
was,
That's right.
yes. And I mean, and
Couldn't wait till Thanksgiving.
yes, exactly. And it was like a family affair.
Oh, look at that.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
look at
yes.
that.
And
I
so,
like that.
and
That
so
make me hungry.
yes, but that was her thing. That was her thing.
Mhm.
So, well, one thing that our guests have in common is that they all do talk, and I'm a talker, and so we are hitting that 2-minute warning, as I said previously
Okay. Okay.
in another parlor. I'm a sports person, and football, and we had that 2-minute warning, and so I'm
Mhm.
gonna pivot. And Sherrie, I don't know if there's anything that you want to ask Calvin, or anything you want to jump in and say.
Well, my one question is, where can we pick up the book? And then two, what inspiration or words do you have for hospitality students? Because I tell everyone to write a book. I think it is essential and key to tell their stories.
Mhm.
Can you share like some tips or some suggestions for hospitality students, and maybe ideas of books that they can research and create as well?
Oh, wow. Well, you could get the book. Well, here's a copy right here in my hand. Ah, yes. You can't have
Yes.
this one, though. Can't have this one. But if you go to calvinstovall.com, you can purchase it there. But it'll also be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, in the stores.
Okay.
It'll also be, you can buy it online, and just search hidden hospitality. It'll pop up, so you can buy it
Okay.
there. But yep. As far as hospitality students are concerned, hey, look, I think if you have an idea in your head, if you think it's going to be a great book, get it done. Get it done. But I'm going to tell you something. It's going to take longer than you think it will.
Okay. It's not going to be a 60-second TikTok.
Nope. Now you can get a ghostwriter and do all that
Yeah.
if you want, but I don't think that's an authentic way to write your story. I think if you sit down and take the time and you're going to do it, it's just going to take some time and some discipline. This was hard. I'll be honest, there were some days when I got up, I was like, I just don't feel like doing it. But you got to be able to give yourself some grace too. And you got to know when to walk away, take a break, come back, but you got to finish it. You know, one of the things that I am so proud, yes, I'm proud of the product. Trust me, I am. But something else that came out of this process that I'm really proud of is that, you know, I have 2 teenage boys. They're 16 and 18 years old. And they saw me here every day, almost doing this. But they were very encouraging. Dad, you're going to finish. But what I liked most, they saw me start it. They saw me finish it.
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
And to me,
we're not quitters.
Nope. That is right. That's an example that I want my boys to see. And it just happened to come through a book, but they saw how long it took and they saw the end product. So I can say to them all day long, don't start something you can't finish, but hey, if I did it, I can say it. And so
absolutely.
That was a byproduct of it that I'm so super proud of. But
and I think, because it speaks to your resilience and perseverance. I remember when my mom was getting her master's, and I remember her at the dining room table typing her master's thesis on the typewriter.
Yeah.
And I remember when it was my turn, I was like, well, I don't know if I would have gotten a master's if I had to use a typewriter. And I had such a new level of respect because, you know, all we had to do was bag up. But, you know, when you think, because I'm old enough that I learned how to type in high school.
Yes.
And you had that correction tape. And I was just like, you know what? That is a real.
That's a real resilience, right?
That's real. That's real. And you know, so
level.
It is.
That's
it
another
really
level.
Is. It is. And it speaks to, you know, and as you said with your boys, they saw you do that. And I saw her, you know, and at that time I was not planning to get a master's. To be honest with you, I don't even know if I knew what it was, because I know that I was younger than 10. And the reason I remember so well, because I'm 10 years older than my sister and she wasn't born at that time.
Right.
And, you know, and I didn't really, you know, I knew she was getting a degree and she was going to school and things like that.
Right.
But when you look back and you see when people do these labors of love, which is why I think that, you know, it's just wonderful to tell the story of individuals who are no longer here to tell it themselves.
Yes.
Because it is important to tell the story. And I think that if you don't tell it, kind of like you said with the publishing company, if you give someone else permission to tell it, then it's not truly your story.
That's right.
It's not truly your story. So you owned it. And so I say to you, you know, congratulations and continued success.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you on campus. And I will start promoting the book. It is absolutely gorgeous. Everyone, go out and get your copy. It is absolutely gorgeous. And you can tell that it was a labor of love. And you leave this legacy for your sons. You know,
right.
How many people can say, my daddy wrote a book?
All right. I've told him, I said, you could take them. I'm sure it's going to probably end up in someone's library. I was like, you take them to the library. It's my daddy wrote this book right here.
Exactly. And that is a sense of pride, because you know, we stand on the shoulders of those before us, and someone will say the same about us. And I think in this, you know, this world of where everything is digital, to have something tangible in your hand, because I love coffee table books. I have some, and you know, and I plan to have more, because, you know, years from now, when you know, folks have passed on and different things, No one's gonna go looking for your TikTok if it's even still around. No one's gonna go looking for those are like, 20-second
Yep.
things, but
Yep.
pictures
This
and
book
things.
gonna be
Yes,
here.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's when we
Legacy.
will end on that note. This book will
This book gonna be here.
yes. Calvin, thank you so much for joining us. And this has been such a rich conversation, and we could probably go on and on. And so we will continue it offline in different spaces, and we'll be looking for you on your tour. And,
Yes.
when you go on, if you go on Tamara Hall, just send us a shout out.
Oh, I got you. That's all right. I love
Yes,
Thank you
so-
both so much for having me, and I really appreciate you all giving me some time to talk about hidden hospitality.
Yes, now it's time to enjoy the fruit of your labor, and best of luck to you. And
All
we
right.
will be telling folks to buy it. So yes,
All right.
go on Amazon and put it in your cart and buy it. Don't just put it in your cart, buy it.
All right. Thank you so much. Y'all.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Buy it. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for spending time with us on the Professor's Parlor. This podcast is part of Hospitality Nexus, a global human-first platform bringing the hospitality ecosystem together in one place. Inside the Nexus, it's a career fair that never closes, connecting industry leaders, educators, students, employers, and partners through real presence. Watch every episode of the Professor's Parlor inside Hospitality Nexus at hospitalitynexus.org. Stay curious, keep the dialogue going, and always lead with the spirit of hospitality.